The roar of the truck's failing engine echoed through the dense Alaskan wilderness before it sputtered into silence. Jack Carter, a seasoned wildlife photographer, turned the key again. But the engine only clicked in protest. The deepening twilight painted the snow-covered landscape in hues of gold and blue, but Jack had no time to appreciate the beauty. The temperature was plummeting. And he was stranded. Reaching for his satellite phone, his heart sank. The screen was black, dead battery. He had been so focused on documenting the odd behavior of the local bear population that he had forgotten to charge it. He exhaled sharply, rubbing his gloved hands together, trying to keep the creeping cold at bay. His eyes flicked to the forest around him, instinctively scanning for movement. Then he saw it. A massive grizzly bear stood at the edge of the clearing, its breath curling into the frigid air like smoke from a dragon's nostrils. But something about the bear's posture was off. It wasn't foraging, wasn't wandering, it was waiting. Watching. Jack swallowed hard as a flicker of movement caught his attention to the right. Another bear. Then another. They emerged from the trees with an eerie deliberateness. Their heavy paws silent against the frost-laden ground. His grip tightened around the steering wheel as the realization hit him like a punch to the gut. He wasn't just stranded in bear country. He was surrounded. Jack's camera, lying on the passenger seat, was still active. He reached for it with slow, careful movements and peered through the telephoto lens. The bears weren't behaving like any he had ever documented before. Grizzlies were typically solitary creatures, but these ones, they were organizing. They moved with purpose, spacing themselves evenly in a formation that defied everything he knew about their natural instincts. The leader of the group, a towering grizzly with deep scars across its muzzle, stood on its hind legs, towering at nearly 9 feet tall. Its eyes locked onto Jack's with a penetrating intelligence that sent a shiver down his spine. He had studied wildlife for over 20 years, but this was different. This was something beyond instinct. This was strategy. Jack's breath turned shallow as he counted. 1, 2, 8, 10, 15 bears. They were closing in, step by step, encircling his vehicle with an unnerving precision. His heartbeat thundered in his ears, drowning out the whisper of the wind. His truck was his only barrier, but for how long? The circle forms. Through his camera, Jack could see their subtle movements, the way they nodded toward one another, adjusting their positions in perfect synchronization. He documented the scene, his photographer's instinct taking over. If he survived this, the footage would be groundbreaking. But deep down, he knew something was happening that no wildlife expert would ever believe. One of the younger bears let out a low, guttural sound. The others shifted slightly, responding as if to an unspoken command. The lead bear lowered itself back onto all fours and took 2 steps forward. The others mirrored the movement, closing the distance between them and Jack's truck. It was as if they were waiting for something, or someone. Jack clenched his jaw, glancing at the emergency flare gun in his glove compartment. Would a shot into the sky scare them off? Or would it provoke them? He didn't dare make a move yet. Not until he understood what they wanted. Then, a new sound filled the clearing. A deep, rolling vibration, like a distant drumbeat. Jack's pulse spiked as he realized it wasn't coming from the bears. It was coming from the earth beneath them. The lead bear lifted its massive head. Ears twitching. The others followed, their attention shifting toward the distant horizon. Jack turned his gaze toward the west, and his stomach lurched. The sky had taken on an unnatural glow. An eerie, shifting orange hue reflected against the thickening clouds. Smoke. Fire. A forest fire. Jack had been so preoccupied with the bears that he had failed to notice the looming catastrophe behind him. He inhaled sharply, his mind racing. The wind had changed direction, bringing with it the unmistakable scent of burning timber. He was trapped, his broken-down truck sitting in the path of an oncoming inferno. And yet, the bears weren't running. They were moving. The unthinkable. The lead bear, Scar, as Jack now thought of him, let out a deep, resonant call. The others answered. Their movements quickening, purposeful. They weren't panicking like typical wildlife in the face of fire. They were organizing. Scar moved first, pacing toward Jack's truck, stopping just feet from the driver's side door. He lowered his massive head, then deliberately lifted it again, pointing toward a narrow passage between the trees. A path. Jack's breath hitched. No way. The bears weren't here to attack. They were here to save him. His hands trembled as he reached for the ignition, praying for a miracle. He turned the key. Nothing. Panic surged in his chest, but before he could spiral into fear, Scar did something even more astonishing. He lifted a paw and tapped the side of the truck. Once. Twice. 3 times. It was an unmistakable gesture. Move. Jack's instincts screamed at him to listen. He grabbed his flare gun and his camera, then yanked the door handle. The bears parted, making room for him to step onto the frozen earth. Their massive forms created a corridor leading toward the path Scar had indicated. They were guiding him, ensuring his escape from the fire's deadly path. As he took his first hesitant step, he caught movement from the corner of his eye. A procession of smaller creatures, deer, foxes, even a few wolves, emerged from the underbrush, following the same route the bears had carved. Jack's breath caught in his throat. The bears weren't just saving him. They were saving everything. The exodus begins. With adrenaline fueling his every move, Jack followed Scar, weaving through the forest as the fire raged behind them. The bears moved with astounding coordination, shifting positions to guide not just Jack but the entire flood of wildlife toward safety. When a fallen branch blocked their path, 2 of the largest bears worked together to clear it. When the fire's heat grew too intense, they instinctively led the group toward a shallow river, using the water to shield them from the flames. Jack was no longer just a photographer documenting the wilderness. He was part of something ancient, something primal, an unspoken alliance between man and beast in the face of nature's wrath. As the night deepened, the fire roared behind them, consuming everything in its path. But the bears kept moving, their eyes locked ahead, their purpose clear. And Jack, against all odds, knew he would live to tell their story. The eerie glow of fire flickered against the distant horizon, casting ominous light across the snow-laden forest. Jack could now smell the smoke, acrid and thick, curling through the trees like a serpent. The bears, still eerily organized, had turned their attention toward the approaching blaze. Then, Scar, the lead bear, moved first. He let out a low, guttural growl, deep and commanding. The other bears reacted instantly, their powerful bodies shifting in unison. Jack watched in astonishment as they parted slightly, forming a path between him and the trees. The message was clear. Follow us. Jack hesitated only for a moment before gripping his camera and stepping out of the truck. The cold hit him like a hammer, but it was nothing compared to the weight of the moment. These wild creatures, these apex predators, weren't hunting him. They were guiding him. As he walked cautiously between the massive creatures, he noticed something remarkable. The other animals, too, were following. Deer bounded softly through the underbrush, foxes slinked past. Even a lone wolf moved among them, all heading in the same direction. This wasn't a random migration. This was an exodus. Scar took the lead, his massive frame cutting through the snow as effortlessly as a ship through water. Jack followed, his boots crunching against the ice as he moved through the makeshift corridor of bears. Every so often, one of them would glance at him, their eyes filled with something he could only describe as understanding. The heat from the approaching fire intensified, embers swirling in the air like fireflies. The bears picked up their pace, weaving through the forest with practiced ease. Jack struggled to keep up, his breath ragged in the freezing air. They passed over a frozen river, its icy surface reflecting the orange glow from the inferno behind them. Scar stopped momentarily, turning back toward Jack. He huffed, the vapor from his breath mixing with the smoke-filled sky, before continuing forward. Jack understood. Keep moving. Don't stop. The flames were closing in now, devouring everything in their path. Trees crackled and fell, their ancient trunks collapsing in a fiery storm. Jack's heart pounded as he pushed forward, his body screaming for rest, but the bears never faltered. Then, he saw it. A clearing. A wide, open stretch of land where the fire had yet to reach. A place of safety. The bears emerged first, followed by the wave of smaller animals. Each one drawn to this haven like a lighthouse in a storm. Jack stumbled forward, collapsing onto his knees, gasping for breath. He turned back to see the bears standing tall at the edge of the clearing, their eyes fixed on the blazing forest behind them. They had saved him. Not just him, everything. The deer, the foxes, the wolves, even the smaller creatures hiding in the underbrush. The bears had orchestrated this escape, leading them away from destruction and into survival. Jack sat in stunned silence, his camera still clutched in his shaking hands. He had captured it all, every movement, every coordinated effort. The world would see what he had witnessed, but would they believe it? Scar turned one last time, his deep eyes meeting Jack's. Then, without a sound, he led his pack back into the darkness, disappearing into the untamed wild. Jack sat there for a long time, watching the night sky as the fire raged on in the distance. He had come here to document nature's beauty. Instead, he had witnessed its guardians. Days passed, and Jack's story spread beyond the wilderness. His photographs, each frame capturing the silent intelligence of the bears, ignited a global conversation. Scientists, wildlife experts, and skeptics alike were drawn to the impossible tale. Jack returned to civilization but felt forever changed. He was no longer just an observer. He had been part of something profound. The footage he captured was analyzed extensively. Experts debated, was it instinct, coincidence, or something deeper? But Jack knew the truth. He had seen it in their eyes. Months later, he returned to the Alaskan wilderness, drawn back by an unseen force. As he stood near the charred remnants of the forest, a familiar figure emerged from the shadows. Scar. Their eyes met once more, and in that moment, Jack understood, some connections, no matter how improbable, transcend logic. The bears had been his saviors, and he would spend the rest of his life ensuring their story was never forgotten. The world had heard Jack's story, but the mystery was far from over. Months after their miraculous escape, Jack found himself drawn back to the heart of the Alaskan wilderness, seeking answers that science could not yet explain. Scar had returned once, and Jack had a feeling it wasn't the last time. This time, he wasn't just an observer. He was part of the story. The story of Jack and the guardian bears carries a profound message about the interconnectedness of life, the wisdom of nature, and the power of trust beyond species. Here are the key takeaways. Compassion transcends boundaries. Jack's survival was not just due to luck, it was a result of the silent understanding between him and the bears. It teaches us that kindness, respect, and coexistence with nature can foster connections that defy logic. Nature's intelligence is profound. The bear's ability to organize, protect, and lead others to safety challenges our perception of wildlife. Animals are not just instinct-driven beings, they possess intelligence, awareness, and even a sense of responsibility toward the world they inhabit. Humans are not separate from nature, too often. We see ourselves as masters of nature rather than a part of it. Jack's journey proves that when we respect and listen to the natural world, it responds in ways we never expect. Survival is a shared effort. The bears not only saved themselves but created a path for all creatures, demonstrating that survival isn't about individual strength but collective wisdom. Whether in nature or in human society, we thrive when we work together. The power of storytelling. Jack's decision to share his experience ensured that the world could witness the extraordinary. It reminds us that stories have the power to shift perspectives, inspire change, and redefine our understanding of the world. This story is a testament to the beauty of the wild, the mysteries it holds, and the lessons we can learn if we are willing to listen. The guardian bears did not just save Jack, they revealed a truth that challenges humanity to see the natural world with new eyes, not as something to conquer, but as something to respect and protect.